you've hung around MBTI, typology, communities, online forums, YouTube videos long enough, you've probably seen that pretty much everyone has their own opinion on what is the best way to type people. Whether you're talking about typing yourself or typing other people. Some will say, use the functions. Look for the functions. What functions can you identify? Others will say, well, you got to take the official MBTI with a practitioner. Some will say, look for the Kersey temperaments. Are they an SJ or an SP, NT or NF, and then narrow it down from there. And then some will just say, well, just read through all 16 type descriptions and see which one you fit best. So I think they're all wrong and they're all right at the same time. And what I mean by that is there is no one way to type people that's going to universally be best for each individual, because each one of those methods is imperfect on its own, and the proponents of each of those methods will easily point out the flaws in the other methods. Now, of course, the real MBTI is better than any of the free online knockoffs, but still, any test is only as reliable as the answers you give it. But you could say that about just about any method of typing yourself. You have to know yourself in order to accurately assess your type. And having a practitioner guide you through the process can help, but a practitioner can still be wrong. Learning the cognitive functions and trying to identify those in yourself can be helpful to some, but just confusing to others. Like, to me, it makes logical, theoretical sense that you should identify which functions you use because the Myers-Briggs types are based on the functions. But after hearing Dr. Mike's argument and observing a lot of mistypes, I finally realized the problem. Realistically, the functions are just too hard for most people to identify. And it takes a lot of natural intuitive skill plus experience to be able to do it well. And I'm nowhere near that ability, even after 2.5 years of being into typology. INTJs are great at it. That's why they're the ones always promoting typing through the functions. That's why Interpersonality does it that way. They're both INTJs and they're professionals, so they're legit with the functions. So some types are better than others at identifying the functions and typing through the functions, but you can't know if you're one of those types if you don't know your type, because that's the whole point, trying to figure out your type. Some people will actually believe they're a type that they want to be, and this is something that Dr. Mike has pointed out several times, but that's always been a foreign concept to me, because for me, I always just wanted to know what type I actually am. I didn't want to be a certain type. I've noticed it to be especially the case with FI dominance, introverted feeling, but yeah, we won't go there. So basically what you have to do is just kind of play around with the different typing methods and just kind of see which type it seems to point towards. Just kind of figure it out from there. I mean, I know it's easy for me to say as someone who uses dominant introverted thinking supported by introverted intuition. So, well, if the process is difficult for you, then I guess try to get a TI user or NI user to help you. But anyway, yeah, look into all these different typing methods. Take the official MBTI if you can. Otherwise, try several different tests. Plus, look into the functions, read up on the functions to see if you relate to some more than others. Plus, read the descriptions of all the different types from different sources. And read about the temperaments and see if that helps narrow it down. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And if all these methods point to different types, well, they obviously can't all be right. So then it becomes a process of figuring out which ones are wrong and why they're wrong. So like in my case, I tested ISTJ on some of the bad online tests because the questions were worded in such a way that I answered according to my acquired behaviors instead of my natural preferences. And then when I read through the type descriptions, I related more to INTJ because the description was abstract enough for me to not necessarily disagree with it. You know, there was nothing concrete in it to make me go, whoa, no, that's not me. And of course, the ISTP description contained all the stereotypes, which I've already talked about in another video. And then when I looked at the Kersey temperaments, SJ and NT just sounded more appealing, just because of the values that I learned through my upbringing and experiences. So for me, it ultimately came down to recognizing my preferences for introverted thinking, extroverted sensing, and somewhat introverted intuition. And then understanding why all those other methods were misleading. You know, why I kept getting wrong results on online tests, why I was drawn to certain temperaments, and why I related to certain type descriptions. But that was just my process as an introverted thinking dominant. In fact, I'd say it's very unlikely that the process would be the same way for anybody else. So, like I was saying, you just have to try out all these different methods until you eventually narrow it down to more certainty about your type. Unless, of course, you're one of those who has always gotten the same result on every test, and the description of that type matches you 100%, and you immediately recognize your use of the functions, in which case, you suck. It's only as good as... I know it's easier for me to say as a T. You have to know yourself in order to accurately assess your... I related more to INTJ because just see how it works for you and just eventually narrow it down. And I don't know what I'm saying. I related more to INTJ because the description...